guys, and welcome to Odds on Serie A. We just finished the fourth match day yesterday with Napoli on top of the table, and now we have the fifth match day starting this Tuesday. Danny, this is a non-stop Serie A. How are you?
I'm all right. I do well. It's been a lot of emotions at this weekend. We saw 1-1 in Turin. Juventus could not hold into the lead. And yes, we got a new leader. Napoli thumped Udinese 4-0. Great games this midweek. There is a massive game at Artemio Franchi, Fiorentina Inter. And then the following day, there is another relegation 6-pointers between Spezia and Juventus. No, I'm joking. I mean, it's going to be a bit under pressure for you going to Stadio Pico after a bad start of the season.
Juve, they are in relegation zone. Exactly. So guys, leave a comment below. Comment the Serie A with us, giving us also your tips and your prediction for this match day. And of course, don't forget to support us by clicking on the like button and subscribing to our channel, and click on the bell as well. So let's start on Tuesday. So today we have 3 games starting with Bologna, Genoa. What a defense! Bologna were performance in San Siro. The only thing I like about Bologna was the hat of Mihajlovic. The other things, Danny, was absolutely awful, even if they started pretty well the season. Remember that they have 7 points, so still is not a bad start of the season, whereas Genoa, they deserve to lose against Fiorentina. Salvatore Sirigu was the best man on the pitch, and this is Genoa's goalkeeper. Only 1 victory for them in the season against Cagliari. Danny, this is a balanced one, in my opinion. Bologna is very, very favorite, but who trusts Mihajlovic men after that poor performance in San Siro?
It's tough to call. Maybe perhaps Bologna, because they won the 2 home games so far this season, but they've taken a big step back against Inter. They were not very aggressive. They waited for Inter too much in their half. And, and I read statistics that it's incredible for Bologna. Inter ran more kilometers in the game than Bologna, but Inter have played Real Madrid in the midweek, and Bologna could have prepared for the game, so they weren't up for it. If we look at these games, they've not beaten Genoa in the last 5 games. Last season was a 2-0 win for Genoa at Dallara. I think what happened with Bologna this year is that after the first game of the season, they lost to newly promoted in Serie B Ternana home. They lost 5-4. They started becoming a bit concerned about not conceding goals, and they do not unleash the talent they have because they got a lot of firepower up front. So they kind of set up too much defensively, like, let's not concede, sooner or later we will score one. And by doing that against top teams, they end up being not very aggressive. For Genoa, a bad performance against Fiorentina. They lack chances, they lack a little bit motivation, as Ballardini said. Perhaps also because Ballardini keeps changing formation from a back 5 to a back 3. Then at some point he goes with a back 4. I don't think they quite understood what the best 11 is. But Genoa is a team that started the season with a worse squad than last year, because they sold a couple of players that were important to them, Shomudorov and Strootman. Now they got new signings. They still need to gel them in. And again, another worrying stats for Genoa. They are the second worst team for possession. That's less than 40%. And most of the possession of Genoa is in their own half. So I'm not expecting a lot of goals in this one. Let's go for an under 2.5 goals. That pays 210.
Okay, then we have Atalanta Sassuolo. I didn't like again Atalanta against Salernitana. They struggled, they suffered in Salerno until Duban Zapata opened the scoreboard. Then they had some chances even to score the second one, but still, they are not particularly good. Their last game at home was a defeat against Fiorentina. They also failed to beat Bologna at home, so no victories in Bergamo yet. Whereas Sassuolo, also for us, a poor start, 4 points. They lost at home against Torino, so back-to-back defeats for them because they also lost in the Olimpico against Roma. Danny, Atalanta is very favorite, odds 1.6, but also is not a team to be trusted now. And you always said that Gasperini's men always lose points in this start of the season.
And none of these two teams is in great form, but if Atalanta had not won at Salerno, I would have said they were the biggest disappointment of the season so far, even more than Juventus, because you should expect more from this Atalanta side that has strengthened the squad, has kept the same group of players as last year. And I see them not clicking in certain phases of the game. Everything kind of goes through the middle, whereas we know that the strength of Atalanta is the wing backs, Goes and Mele on the other side, and they don't receive enough balls or enough support when they play. Probably the injury of Muriel, the Colombian, it's costing them quite a lot because, yes, Zapata is a physical presence. He scores in the box, can make his physique felt, but Muriel was more useful at linking up the play, and his movements sometimes drag defenders away. So, they only score 4 so far this season, and we are talking about the best attack of Serie A in the last 3 consecutive seasons. I think they deserve to lose against Salernitana. With Sassuolo as well, not very precise against Torino. They play well for 20 minutes. Then Torino knew how to exploit the wide areas of Sassuolo. The 2 men up front, Boga and Berardi, they're not really keen on running backwards and defending. So there were spaces. And the problem with Sassuolo is that sometimes, they let so many stupid goals. They almost scores the goals themselves for the opponents because again, they're very leaky at the back. Chiriches is quite slow when he starts playing with the ball at the back. He's not quite secure. I think if you look at Sassuolo, there is a stat that is interesting. Their opponents so far, they've hit 4 times the post or the bar. So that's the record in Serie A. So they've been quite lucky. I know last year this game finished 5-1, previously 4-1, the season before 3-1, so a lot of goals. But because these 2 teams are not in a great form, I found a good odds on the goals market. If you go for under 3.5 goals, which is quite a lot, that pays 180. Considering the form, I would go for it.
Yep, I like actually that idea. Under 3.5 goals, 2 disappointing teams, Atalanta and Sassuolo. We cannot say the same for sure about Fiorentina or Inter. Fiorentina, one of the good surprises of this start of the season. They have been able to win in very difficult stadiums like the one in Genoa or Atalanta. Their only defeat of the season was against Roma, and they were down to 10 men. So, Danny, this is a very difficult test for this Inter Milan that we already said that they smashed Bologna after misfiring against Real Madrid, but their last away game was a draw in Genova against Sampdoria. Last season, also, Inter was able to win here in the Franchi, but this is another Fiorentina.
Yes, of course, and Fiorentina has changed a lot under Vincenzo Italiano. It's no longer the defensive team and the timid team they used to play with Iachini. Here, they play on the front foot. And again, the possession stats tells you a lot. Fiorentina has got average possession of over 56%. I know that most of the possession is in their own half, but look at the way the 2 fullbacks, Biraghi and Odriozola, play up. Also, the 2 centre-backs push on quite a lot. So yeah, they were really, really convincing at Genoa, and also the changes that Italiano made in the second half when he introduced Saponara, he scored. It shows that the manager knows his team and he knows his strengths. I think this is going to be an exciting game because both teams go for it. If you look at the stats of the shots on target, Inter is on top. Teams who had more shot on target so far. Fiorentina 6th in the table. So it's going to be a test for Inter because so far Inter has played oppositions that are not at their level. And, perhaps they should have even had 2 more points than what they had so far in the table. Credit to Inter because they made the game against Bologna very easy for themselves. They score early. They keep the rhythm up. After the 3-0 was basically a practice session. But, credit to them for keep going. A couple of years ago, maybe, they would have panicked in such a situation, especially after the Champions League. However, never easy to go to Florence. Inter are unbeaten in the last 8 games, considering also the last season. Fiorentina comes on the back of 3 straight wins. Yes, Inter last year won twice, also in the Coppa Italia 2-1. Never a straightforward game. They always score in the second half. Good odds, double chance, 1x for Fiorentina, 193.
Emiliano says that Inter is going to win 1-2 in Trasferta or away, which is the meaning. But this is a very tough game for Inter. You mentioned Odriozola, good in attack, but in defense, classic Odriozola. Then Wednesday, Salernitana, Verona. I like a lot, Danny, the atmosphere actually in the Salernitana's stadium. As you mentioned before, probably they deserve way more. They hit the post a couple of times against Atalanta, but 0 points for them. Only scored goals against Bologna in the opening game of the season, so they look quite doomed. It was the same Verona until they changed the coach. They sack Di Francesco. We were not sure about Tudor, but the first game was a great reaction. They were able to beat one of the best teams of the championship so far, Roma. And if someone has not yet looked at the goal scored by Verona, scored by Faraoni after this game, go and watch it in YouTube. What a goal. Good odds, Danny, here for an away victory.
Very good, because they play Salernitana, who got the worst attack of Serie A, only 2 goals scored. The team who has so far done less shots on target, 7 in 4 games, not many. But against Atalanta, I feel they deserve definitely a point, perhaps 3 points. They were on the front foot, exploited the fact that Atalanta are not quite there physically. So yeah, they hit the post. I mean, in total already in this season, they hit the post 3 times. But surprisingly enough, Atalanta, if you look at the stats, who the teams that run the less, Atalanta is quite at the bottom of the particular table. And I find this surprising because, if there is one thing that the team has to do to make sure that they are on top of game, it's to run, to put the efforts in, because in terms of quality, obviously they don't have the same quality as other teams. So perhaps Castori needs to change that and make sure that the teams run until the end and puts more kilometers in, if you like. At the end against Salernitana, I think they paid a stupid mistake at the back, the mistake of lack of experience. When you come from Serie B to Serie A, that's sometimes what happened. However, Verona, the Tudor transformation, he took a new manager to change the team completely, but because they decided to almost revert to the way the Juric was playing. So 2 strikers, Caprari and Giovanni Simeone, Barak behind them, and they almost set up in a 3-4-3. And they got rid of the trying to dominate possession without players that can actually do it, as Di Francesco did it, and they played a more direct football. The transitions were very quick, few passes, hitting it long, having the support of Barak behind the 2 strikers helped. So they created a great volume of play against Roma. They had 6 shots on target in the match, never done before in this season. If you think the week before at Bologna, they had 0 shot on target. So that's a massive improvement. I think, it can be risky, but Verona win, if they continue with the momentum, it's a very good odd. A Verona win for 217, why not?
Yeah, why not? Red Room is asking you, Danny, Salernitana to score. You already said that they are the worst team in this area.
They have to be a little bit more lucky, I think. I mean, they deserve to score against Atalanta, and they do have threatening players up front. Maybe we'll see more of Simi and Bonazzoli from the first minute. They can score, but I am worried about them conceding at the back, I think.
Emiliano is telling us Verona X2 double chance, but of course the odds are quite low for that market. So your pick is Verona to win, straight and simple. Then a 6-pointer, as you said, for the relegation. Spezia Juventus, because Allegri's men, they are right now in relegation zone with only 2 points. They drew against Milan in the most interesting game last weekend. 8 points less than Inter, 10 points fewer than Napoli, and we are just in the middle of September. But good goal scored by Morata, by the way, we have to say everything. And for Spezia, Dani, first victory of the season in Venezia with Muravia scoring the winner in a very important game. It was this one. It was a 6-pointer. What do you expect here? I guess, of course, Juve to win. No, at one point they have to win.
I think they have to. We have to analyze the things calmly. Juventus are still in the middle of a crisis, are still looking for their identity, but they've shown signs of improvement in the first 30 minutes against Milan. That was the best they played, with energy, with desire. They were put well in the pitch. I think especially the position of Dybala playing behind Morata in the pocket, it was very difficult for Milan midfielders to pick him up, so he could organize the plays, and they created a couple of chances, half chances in the first half. What happened in the end is that they tired, they couldn't finish the game, and because they lack the sort of midfielder that can slow up the tempo, can organize the game, the one what we call in Italy play basso or regista. I don't think Locatelli can do that kind of play. In the end, they surrendered possession in the second half, and Milan were on top, and as Allegri said, Milan in the end could have won the game. They were lucky that the game finished because they had the chances. Now, there is a little bit of a tactical dilemma for Allegri, who said he should have brought in more defensive player. When Juventus suffers, it could be a good idea to put a third defender. They played with Bonucci and Chiellini, leaving De Ligt on the bench for the game. Why not playing with a back three? I mean, De Ligt is a 75 million defender. He looked the business when he plays. He needs a little bit of continuity. Perhaps you can't go on all the time with Bonucci and Chiellini. Play with three at the back, also because Juventus got good wing backs. You go Quadrado one side, you can put Danilo on the other side, or even Bernardeschi, or Alexandro. So there are options there to play with a 3-5-2. And Allegri needs a plan B, and needs to change. Also because the defense, it's worrying. Conceding from a corner, as they did against Rebic, is a lack of attention, but they conceded in the last 18 Serie A games in a row. If we look also last season, this is the worst record in Europe top 5 leagues. No one has done so bad so far. They are winless in 4 games in Serie A. The last time it happened was 60 years ago. Last year, they went to Spezia. They won 4-1. Guess who scored 2?
Morata?
Ronaldo. Well, okay. Anyway, if you look at that, I said a 6-pointer because if you look again at the stats, both teams have got very poor possession stats in the opposition half. So more or less, actually, Spezia managed to dominate the possession a little bit more. So a quick counter could decide it, an episode could decide it, and then Juve have got better quality. That's why I'm going with this odd. Spezia create enough. They scored 5. They were a little bit lucky against Venezia. Someone's asking Spezia to score. Potentially, because again they might bring back Balanzola. We saw him playing with Venezia, and I think that is gonna be benefiting. But the odds for Juventus to win are low, but the odds for Juventus to win the first half are decent, 1.85.
Who need Cristiano Ronaldo? No, someone was saying in the stadium. Probably Juventus need him. Man United for sure, they needed him, and now they have him, and he's scoring in every single game, but he's not anymore in Serie A. Then we have Milan, Venezia. Milan, Pioli's men, they had 2 difficult challenges, even 3 last week. Lazio, Liverpool, and Juventus. Against Liverpool, they lost, but they put a fight, and after starting quite poorly the game. You just mentioned that against Juventus, they deserve to go down in the scoreboard, and then they had chances to even win at the Juventus stadium. But now, Danny, they play a poor team like Venezia, which only victory came against another newly promoted team like Empoli. So despite the problems they had last season at San Siro, it looks like this season they are going to be stronger at home. I guess maybe a heavy victory for Milan here.
They've been good at home so far, whereas Last season they struggled. Let's not forget, last season they only collected 30 points at home. They were mid-table at the end. When Ibrahimovic got injured, they really struggled to unlock defenses, especially at home. Good reaction in the week for Milan. Good reaction at Liverpool after being behind for 30 minutes. They go back into the game. Great reaction at the Juventus Stadium, despite missing some key players. Now, the problem with Milan is that even if they produce a lot of play and they play well, they play in the opposition half, you feel that they do need the number 9. They do need the big physical presence, either Ibrahimovic or Giroud. At times against Juventus, I was thinking, okay, they're creating a lot. They're not crossing many balls into the box. How they gonna unlock this one without a center forward? But in the end, they did it from a corner. The fact that they finished stronger than Juventus is a good sign, a sign of a team that's got an identity, that kept the same manager for a year and a half, and I think that starting to pay off. The concern for Milan maybe sometimes is the defense, not at the moment, but how long they gonna last. They got a couple of players that are injury prone. Kjaer picked up a knock. Romagnoli is coming from 2 seasons not great. Kalulu and Tomoya young, good players, but still young. So there are some issues there. The goal they conceded against Milan, it's not a great sign. Conceding from a corner, from your corner, is not great to get the counter attack. So sometimes Milan need to be careful not to commit too many players up front and leave themselves exposed. Venezia at the weekend, unlucky, I think. They created chances. They lost in the very last minute against Spezia. Perhaps Spezia had a little bit more expertise, but this is a young team, is a fit team. And I tell you one stat that's really important. This is the 3rd team that ran the most in Serie A. They ran more than Inter so far. So they're quick, they are direct, especially on the wings. They play with Jonsen, with Henry, Okereke. These are players that they really they take the man on, and it is interesting. Also, 6th team in terms of useful crosses, so they put a lot of balls in the box. They try to threaten a lot, so they're very direct, and obviously as a result they don't keep the ball very well in the opposition half. So don't expect them to try and impose their style at Milan, but instead being more direct. Someone suggesting Milan Venezia over 3.5. Yes, possible. I think the odds are not bad, but I will go for something else. I go for both to score, 205.
You need to run in football, but also how to run, no? Even
Yes.
More important for sure. And then last game we have on Wednesday, Empoli. Cagliari, one of the teams that changed manager the previous week, and also we had a reaction from Cagliari. Actually, they were this close to beat Lazio, and the end 2-2 with Mazzari on the bench. We saw the first goal of Keita Balde, actually against his former team Lazio, but still, Danny, Cagliari conceding a lot, 11 goals conceding this season only, whereas Empoli, they were completely outplayed by Sampdoria. They deserved to win. They lost heavily at the Castellani, 0-3 for them. Only victory this season, curiously, against Juve. So probably this is the moment for Cagliari to win a game.
And, the reaction with Mazzarri, same as Verona. I don't think Mazzarri changed the style of the team as much as Tudor did in terms of personnel or tactic. At times, they seem to play with a 4-4-2 instead of 3-5-2, so more compact, 2 blocks of 4, making it difficult for Lazio to pass between the line. But what changes? They look more determined. They suffer until the end because Lazio attacked without much order. Cagliari in the end finished with 10 men. So, it's a good point for them going away to Lazio and keeping and getting a point out. They conceded 5 at home so far, Cagliari. So now this is a test against a team that they should be able to beat, at least in terms of experience. Cagliari has got more, but they need to make sure they don't concede goals in this one. Last year they built their salvation in home form with Semplici. Now with Empoli is a strange one because it is a team that it tried to play positive football, try to keep the ball a lot, but probably at the moment lacks quality. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of stats to explain what I mean. If you look at Cagliari and Empoli, Cagliari has taken the double number of corners than Empoli has taken the double number of corners than Cagliari. 30 corners, they are top of the league of corners against 17. The Empoli are fourth in the league of crosses, but they are the first one for crosses missed, 53. 53 crosses missed in 4 games, so probably lack of quality. Also, fourth in the number of shots taken, 57, only 3 goals, so the return is quite poor, and also the team that goes the most offside. So what tells you is that the ideas are there, the ideas of playing attacking football and proposing that is the lack of quality and the lack sometimes of cohesion that lets them down. So this one is a difficult to call, but because I saw the stats on corner, and I think I never gave you an odds on the Asian handicap on corners, these are quite interesting. Let's go for one. So Empoli Asian handicap corners +1, great odd, 274. So basically, if Empoli and Cagliari take the same number of corner, you're winning because you got a +1. If Cagliari takes one more corner than Empoli, you are not losing your stake. And obviously, if Empoli takes more corner than Cagliari, you won 274.
And remember that Empoli is topping the league of corners. So
exactly.
So there is one table for points. There is League of Legends, which is an eSports that we also have odds. And then is the League of Corners. And there we have Empoli on top. Napoli probably they are happier being on top of the standings, and they are playing on Thursday, difficult one, against Sampdoria in Genova, because Sampdoria, they had a very, very tough calendar. They only have 5 points, so probably someone would think, okay, this is going to be an easy game for Napoli, but again, Sampdoria got the first victory against Empoli with Caputo scoring a brace and Candreva scoring a very good goal. As always, he's full of quality. But before they were able to draw against Inter, to draw against Sassuolo, they only lost 1-0 against Milan. So, Danny, we saw a great Napoli. We saw a really good Insigne against Udinese. We are seeing already the touch of Spalletti, especially also in the set pieces that were very important against Udinese, but this one is a good test also for Napoli.
Napoli unbeaten in the last 9 away games, plus make it 10, because, 2-2 at Leicester in midweek. So very good away form. Last year, they won at Sampdoria 2-0 comfortably. And what I like a lot about Napoli this year is the way they grow into games. Maybe they start slowly the first 5 minutes, but then they start imposing the rhythm, imposing the possession, the quick counterattacks. So, there are good odds for Napoli to win this one. And as you mentioned earlier, they looked better coached. And, the set pieces routine, they scored 2 in Udine from set pieces and from routines, a cross and a header and then a shot on goal that he terminated with a goal. I think that tells you that, the manager is already leaving his mark. As we said before, with Spalletti and Napoli, it's about instilling the confidence into players that they can go and fight against every team, something that perhaps last year against Gattuso they didn't have. Sampdoria, again, maybe the underdog of this beginning of the season, because yes, they played Inter, they played Milan, not easy. They played Sassuolo away, not easy games really. And then they won against Empoli at the weekend. They were better, and all the stats so far tells you that Sampdoria are playing more on the front foot under D'Aversa than what they used to do under Ranieri. The Danish Damsgaard is more mature. He gets involved a little bit more. Caputo and Quagliarella are a very good partnership. So, the only issue is that they haven't beaten Napoli in the last 5 games. So this could maybe suggest you a little bit of cautious. Someone suggested both to score and over 3 goals. Over 3 goals for me seems a little bit much. I'm going to go over 2.5 goals. Okay, a little bit more cautious, 180.
Then for goals here, but as you said, Danny, the victory, as simple as that for Napoli, pays all right, 1.91. We are seeing the touch already of Spalletti with Napoli, and before, Danny, or in other videos, you mentioned that Sarri needs more time with Lazio to see effects in this team. So now Actually, they have another test in Torino because this Lazio, they are having problems. They drew against Cagliari. Cataldi scoring a point, rescuing a point in the last minutes. Good goal as well. After that surprising defeat against Galatasaray in Europa League, also they lost against Milan. So 3 consecutive bad results. Whereas Torino, 7 points, way better than last season, that's for sure. They beat Sassuolo with Piaca scoring the winner after that 4-0 result against Salernitana. So 2 positive results for them, Danny. Only 1 defeat. No, sorry. They lost also against Fiorentina and Atalanta, but actually they deserve to gain some points against Atalanta. You expect problems here for Lazio?
I do, because I think Torino are starting transforming themselves into more of a Juric team, more aggressive, more on the front foot. They know how to exploit other teams' deficiencies. They were almost perfect as Sassuolo. They did not leave many spaces in behind, apart from the first 20 minutes when Sassuolo hit the post. Then they started to control the game. They knew the chances would have come because Sassuolo are so leaky at the back and they always leave the door open. And, they did all of this without Bellotti. So second win in a row, second clean sheet in a row without their main man. So, in terms of, if you look again, the league, the league of crosses, the league of chances created, they are not far from Lazio. So they are not far from the top teams in terms of the way they play. And let's not forget, last year, this was a team that, and apart from that little parenthesis with Giampaolo, they were playing really defensive football and they're waiting a lot in their own half. Lazio against Cagliari, I think they paid the midweek fatigue, the trip to Turkey, the defeat there. Sarri didn't do much turnover for that game, so I think they paid that. I think they need a little bit of fresh legs there. In the end, they were desperate. They attacked it desperately with confusion, without organization. I don't think Sarri likes that either. He wants his team to play almost by memory, knowing everyone what they have to do. However, with Sarri, I think there are signs of change. Let's not forget this Lazio team has been coached for 4 years by Simone Inzaghi, set up on a 3-5-2 formation, playing counter-attack football, long balls, direct balls to Immobile. Now they have to change to try to dominate the possession, playing with a back four, short passes, a lot of movements. So it's not easy, but there are signs of changes. These are the team that retains the ball the most in Serie A. It's first for shots, the team that runs the most. So, the stats, the signs are there. Now they need the quality to finish it off, or a little bit more time to understand what Sarri wants. But for this one, tough to call. The odds, as you can see, are very high for all of the outright market. Asian handicap 0 for Torino, 251.
Lazio is unpredictable, Shuban is saying, and every time I see Pepe Reina on the go, it's like I have to check, is this 2021? And yes, it's 2021, and still Pepe Reina is playing at top level. Good for him. Then, last game of this match day, Roma Udinese. Someone was not happy, and Kur was not happy because that Roma defeat against Verona broke his ACCA, and this is the first setback for Jose Mourinho. Everything was very good in this season after that defeat. Good news at least that Pellegrini is still on fire. Another goal for him. And Udinese, we just said it, how they lost, and they were totally worse than Napoli after a good start of the season. Actually, they had no defeats. It's true that they beat easy teams like Spezia or Venezia. So, of course, Roma very favorite to bounce back and get another victory.
And they pay the defensive frailties at Roma, something that they used to pay also last year under Fonseca. When Verona started attacking with more men, they went in a little bit of confusion. They started retracting too much. And in the end, they conceded 2 goals, 2 very good goals from Verona, we must say. They have Pellegrini very inspired. So I know I can only imagine what Italy could have done at the Euros if Pellegrini was fit to play. And but they paid also the fact that at Verona wasn't a great day for Abraham. He didn't really touch the ball. He didn't really got involved. They need to make sure he's more involved, because against this Udinese side, especially this back three of Samir, Bekao, and Nutink, they look quite static. They look quite slow. Especially that's how they looked against Napoli. The quickness of Abraham can be really important. And also Roma, let's not forget, is a team that attacks a lot. In this beginning of the season, they always scored in both halves for the last 5 games. So again, something has to be said about the capacity of Roma to finding the net. They might have paid a little bit of midweek fatigue as well. There was a little bit of turnover. So there are a lot of excuses, it can happen for a team with a new manager to drop points at Roma. Whereas for Verona, for Udinese, they look weak and when they got attacked by Napoli. They weren't defending the set pieces very well. Perhaps their backline is too slow, and that could be where Roma could exploit them. They looked out of possession. Udinese looked very, very, very vulnerable, as they did in the first half against Juventus in the first game of the season, when they were 2-0 behind. Against Napoli, they couldn't get back into the game. Last year, Roma kept 2 clean sheets against Udinese, won both games. For this reason, I'm going to go for both to score no, 225.
Okay, both to score no. Odds for Roma are quite low, 1.62. Not that low, actually, if you go for Asian handicap and you trust Jose Mourinho's men. Then, Danny, thanks. We have all 10 games analyzed, but as always, we are going to finish with your ACCA.
Okay, let's go with the ACCA. Atalanta win, Juventus to win in Spezia, Milan to score in both halves, Sampdoria, Napoli over 2.5 goals, and Roma to win against Udinese. You can see the odds on the screen, 20-37 total odds.
Yes, it's not cool, these odds on the screen, this ACCA. So cool, so you can check it and place your ACCA if you want, and trust Danny in this 5th match day in Serie A. Thank you, Danny. We will see each other again on Friday because we have more games of this Serie A. Thanks everyone for watching, of course. You can still leave a comment, remember, and tell us your predictions or what you like or dislike about the show. And of course, don't forget and click on the like and subscribe if you enjoy our videos. Enjoy Serie A and see you, Danny, on Friday to analyze the new match day. Bye.
See you, Edu. Ciao, ciao. Enjoy Serie A.